Hey, how's it going, captains? Admiral Hattori here, and welcome aboard for another World of Warships video on my channel. In today's video, I will be taking a look at the Tier 5 Premium Austro-Hungarian battleship, the Viribus Unitis. I believe that is actually a Latin name, which translates to with united forces. Well, that's what it said on Wikipedia. Google said that it was translated to by forces. I'm going to go with Wikipedia on this one because that one sounds more reasonable for a ship like this, if you're gonna name it that way. So, I know little about Austria-Hungary. I know that they are closely good relations with Germany. There is a number of people, a good portion of Austria that speak German. Yeah, I'm definitely not from that area, but if you're from Austria-Hungary, feel free to leave information down in the comment section below. Talk about the culture, the history, because I definitely don't know that particular region. The only reason why I know that Austria speak German, or at least there are a number of people in Austria who speak German, is because I follow a YouTuber who do a lot of video about the German army, specialized in the German army, and I originally thought he was German because he pronounced a lot of the German words very well, but he's actually Austrian, and he made a video about comparing with the Austrian style of speaking German versus a German, which he invited another YouTuber who was actually ethnically German, and they compared certain words, and very interesting. That's how I knew about that Austria. There are a number of people out there who speak German, but definitely that's not my field of study, so I wouldn't know anything about the culture, nor did I live there or born there. So let's talk about the ship here. The Viribus Unitis is a really weird ship. I totally forgot about this ship. When this ship appeared on the launcher, I was wondering, what is that ship? That was a very interesting ship. I thought it was an article, like they usually do an article and they show ships that you don't see in the game. But it turns out this ship was, last time was discussed, was way back in December of 2018. That is roughly 10 months ago, since we are talking about right now in October. And not only that, the CCs that I subscribe to haven't done a video about the Unitis before she was released. They usually do a video like 48 hours before. So on release day, even the CCs were pretty lagging behind with the news on the Unitis. We didn't get the review on the Unitis after like 3 days. I saw iChase made a video about this ship. But yeah, it's really odd. So the Unitis, from what I have experienced, I feel like she's not necessarily a solid ship, but she is a ship that can be fun to play at times if you get the right condition. And that's why I say she's not solid, because if the conditions aren't right, she is a very miserable ship to play. There are certain flaws that are just way too much that really outweighs the greatness of this ship. But nonetheless, I can't recommend it because she's not solid. But at the same time, she's a Tier 5 Premium, and we're not looking at $60 to $80 like Tier 8 Premiums and Tier 9. So you're not losing too much on the money if you were to try out this ship. And again, I think that if you really need that money back after trying this ship and not enjoying it, I believe that you can kind of get away with the customer support saying that, oh, I misinterpreted the information on the ship after using it for 3 days. So I'll let that for your imagination to get away with that. So the Unitis, 10 months ago, she was very broken from the initial testing. She was basically a Austro-Hungarian version of the Nikolai, if not probably more broken, even though I never played the Nikolai nor the Unitis at that time. So what Wargaming has did was that they're gonna retweak it, and they totally forgot about this ship. So on the day that they decided to look around, they need to release something is telling me that what happened was that somebody was working at Wargaming, and they decided that, hey, what is this Unitis ship? Why is it in the queue for so long? And they read the problems with the ship. The ship's just broken at Tier 4. So they lazily, from my interpretation, just bump up the tier and fix the issue. They just bump up to tier 5 and that justify its current state, because I don't think they changed anything about the ship from the last iteration. Now, does that make sense? Well, when you just briefly talk about it at the table, well, if it's broken at tier 4, well, then we just bump it to tier 5 and it'll fix itself. And it kind of did balance this ship out, but there's serious things about the ship just doesn't fit at tier 5 to tier 7 matchmaking, seriously. And the ship itself, historically speaking, this is a early, I think pre-World War I ship, and most pre-World War I dreadnoughts are located at tier 4 and below. Whereas tier 5 is late World War I, and if you don't get the modernization, yeah, it's at least be late into the war, or like the New York class, it's modernized before World War II, so that's the issue. This ship does not belong at tier 5 in terms of the technology or the modernization. So let's just talk about what the issue with the ship. This ship has great guns. This is what makes the ship broken. It has 12 305mm guns, and it has a sigma of 1.8 for this tier. These guns, in my opinion, are more consistent than the Curvers, which kind of speaks out for itself. But then again, the Curvers just has a bad reputation for dispersion, but still. Tier 4, Tier 5 has really great dispersion. Has better dispersion, better consistency compared to the New Mexico and Fuso, partly because those two ships have a sigma of 1.5, 1.6. I don't recall the exact number, but the point is that this has better sigma, so it's just a far superior ship when it comes to accuracy. But the Fuso and New Mexico, they have 356mm guns. Honestly, these guns can't perform as great as those guns. It's just that the accuracy makes up for the lack of caliber. The issue is that this is still a tier 4 hull, and being a tier 4 hull pre-World War I, there's no anti-air. There's barely anti-air on the ship, and since this was originally tier 4, tier 4s have the matchmaking where they will never see tier 6. They can only see tier 5. They're protected with the matchmaking. It's only +1 up or -2. It was -2 or -1. I don't know. It's +1. It's probably +1 and -1. Can't really think of the top of my head because it's been a while since I played tier 4. But once you hit tier 5, you're going to see tier 7 ships, and you got a tier 4 hull pre-World War I versus tier 7 ships like the Nagato, which is World War II battleship level. Even though it was built post World War I, but still, it was modernized. Not only that, since your AA is practically absent, you're going to see tier 6 aircraft carriers, and tier 6 aircraft carriers is a significant jump from tier 4, not because it's 2 tiers apart, but tier 6 is when you start to see pre-World War II 1930s warplanes, and that was a massive jump in aviation. So if the tier 6 carrier wishes to just focus you got no chance. This ship is slow since it's pre-World War I design, so it's slow. I'm pretty sure, I don't recall the stats on the torpedo protection, but I doubt it has torpedo protection. The hull, this thing has turtleback armor, so you can't beat Citadel. But it's not the German turtleback armor. The turtleback armor is effective to just close range, that's it. But at long range, the way it's sloped, it is not as sloped as the Germans. So when a battleship fires at you and plunges fire at like 10 kilometers, is that even considered plunging fire at 10 kilometers? No, I don't think that's considered plunging fire, but it will happen. You will get constantly Citadel in this ship beyond, I want to be more safe on the numbers here, 13 kilometers. With 356mm guns that you see at tier 5 and tier 6, this ship eats Citadels, and even if it doesn't get Citadel, it eats a lot of penetration damage because the armor design, the armor scheme is just, it's again pre-World War I. It's all over the place. You got a lot of armor on this side, there's a lot of armor on here, a little armor there, moderate armor there. It's not the all or nothing. It's just not. If you compare the armor model from tier 4 battleships, tier 3 to tier 6, you can clearly see the consistency with how they changed the armor model when it comes to modernization of these battleships throughout its history. This does not have it. Since there's thick enough armor all around the ship, you're going to eat the penetration. Accommodate with the Citadel, you know, it's turtleback, but it's not the right turtleback that we want. Yeah, it's a tier 4 hull. This tier 4 hull works perfectly fine in tier 4 matchmaking. But they bumped it up to tier 5 because these guns can perform, if not, can be better than tier 6 and possibly tier 7. And the only way that you ever see this thing is fun, as you're witnessing the game, is that ship selling broadside. If you don't get focused by battleships and ship selling broadside like that Exeter right there, this thing is a beast. If you don't get focused by aircraft carrier, battleships, or cruisers, basically like any other ships, to do well in the ship, you just don't want to get focused in the game. And people selling broadside, any ship can do that. It's just that this ship can really excel at doing that, as you might have noticed of how great the accuracy is. Yes, at times the accuracy isn't great. Sometimes you get really wonky dispersion, but generally, from what I've seen, it's pretty good. And of course, the 305mm guns, these are pre-World War I shells. These shells don't do so great at a distance, which is the other issue with placing this at tier 5. So, overall, I can't recommend this ship. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt that if you really like the way the ship looks, you're interested in the accuracy, and don't mind the really bad games at time. I mean, this is like before they tweaked the matchmaking on tier 8 ships, when tier 8s would 90% of the time or 80% of the time get into a tier 10 matchmaking. It kind of feels like the matchmaking on the ship. Sometimes there'd be nights where I just consistently be top tier. Probably because everyone's asleep at tier 6 and 7, so I just happen to be top tier, and that's why I feel comfortable with that tier. But at the same time, it's pretty broken being top tier. When you face tier 4 ships, this thing is broken. If I were to go back into the conference room on this one and not lazily fix the ship by placing it up a tier higher because it just performed very well at tier 4, if you're gonna put this at tier 5, you gotta change the armor. But there's just no way we're gonna change the armor because it just ruins the historical consistency. I don't want to say accurate because people get worked up when I say accurate, because there are some room that we're gonna be trying to work with changing the armor and guns the way they are in the game. But the historical consistency with the idea that there's armor. There's no average armor around the ship, if that makes sense, like the American battleships and the Japanese. So if I wanted, for a balance sake, I would change the armor if you're gonna place at tier 5, but that kind of ruins the idea of a pre-World War I ship. The easiest way, the most logical way, would have been place the ship at tier 4 and then nerf the guns, because the guns are clearly overperforming. And I read on the forums where Little White Mouse did a announcement, like a warning basically, of buying the ship, and I didn't know the ship was that of a problem, because I just bought it right away because it was a cool looking ship. She basically said that there were patch notes that was left, the test notes or during the testing, that she couldn't confirm. That's how rushed they were on the ship. They just changed a piece of a code, put it at tier 5 to change something about the ship easily, just change a line of code, say it's tier 5, and just like that, the ship hasn't really been different. So the patch note before the ship was released, the plan was that they were going to nerf the repair party on the Citadel because it was excessively repairing the Citadel, and even with this excessive repair in Citadel, it can't save itself from at tier 5 and tier 6 matchmaking with those battleship guns beyond 10 kilometers. But they also nerfed the Sigma on the gun, and it was 1.6. And I thought to myself, well, if they went with the nerf on the ship and placed it at tier 4, this ship would have been fine. It would have been a reasonable premium, tier 4 premium. People will be interested in the ship. Yes, you're going to see tier 4 carriers and which are absent AA, but then again, tier 4 carriers have very slow planes, so they take a while to get to you, and being a slow ship is all good. And plus, here's the issue. Yes, American battleships are slow, right? Yeah, I get the point. There are battleships out there, and generally speaking, people think of American battleship, they sell at 21 knots. This ship sells 20 to 21 knots, but it only has 16 kilometers of range. Most American battleships, on average, will have 18 kilometers. You better grab that plotting room upgrade if you want to be any use with American battleship like the New York, or anything to extend the range. And since the range is extended on American battleship, it kind of makes up for the slow speed, whereas the Unitis doesn't have that option at all. And since you're slow and you're very limited on the range, and you're facing tier 7 battleships, tier 6 battleships, or ships in general, those ships are fast, like the Scharnhorst, you're at their mercy. Because normally, if you're not going to win at close range, you're trying to slug it out at long range. But you don't have long range. And you're going to see maps like Two Brothers, since tier 7, tier 6 matchmaking, these are sizable maps, just not ideal for this ship hull. Absolutely not ideal. Whereas tier 4 maps are smaller, so you can get right into the action with the Unitis or any other tier 4 battleships, slow dreadnought style battleships. That is my issue with this ship. So the short answer is just don't buy it. Wait until Christmas, wait until Thanksgiving. If you still want this ship, you just want to just have it in your port and try it from time to time. Just wait for it and go on sale. Unless you just gotta have the ship, then feel free to. If I knew about the absolute changes, because I didn't look at the tier, I just bought the ship right away, which was my mistake. I was really, at the time, 10 months ago, I was actually really interested in the ship, and when I saw it in the store, I just bought it right away. But then again, I didn't lose everything, as in I bought like a horrible tier 8 premium for $60. This is a tier 5 premium. It was only $21. Didn't hurt that bad. It's just in the port. You never know, they might change it. Well, it's kind of hard to change a premium ship because Wargaming gets into hot water with the community, but I would have been cool if they want to correct this mistake. Probably at best, to compromise the community with their mistake, they probably just nerf it down to tier 4. Would they nerf the guns? If for the sake of everyone, to be fair, if the fair way to go with this is, yes, take this down to tier 4, nerf the guns, and everyone should be happy, because we don't have a ship that's broken at tier 4, and we have a ship that belongs at tier 4. But there's a feeling in me that's saying that people bought the ship and they witness how fun the guns are, even though knowing that there's major flaws with the ship, they most likely won't agree with nerfing the guns, because I think the selling point at the moment, if you ever try to get the ship, are the guns. And right here, you notice that I got Citadel at the stern. The stern is the worst spot to get hit, because it has 19 millimeters all over, whereas the bow has like at least 100 millimeters somewhere. I have no clue, but yeah, that kind of sucks. This ship plays like an accurate Kurfürst, a tier 4 accurate Kurfürst. And the reason I say that is because she has 12 guns like the Kurfürst. She's Austro-Hungarian, so they're major allies with the Germans, so it kind of has that German taste to it. Not necessarily German. Again, that's Austria-Hungary is their own autonomous country. Is that the right word I'm looking for? But it's accurate. You have to show considerable amount of broadside to get all your guns going. That's the other issue with the ship, just like the Kurfürst. She's definitely not a secondary battleship. If they made this a secondary battleship, maybe it might be worthy, because she does have quite a number of 150 millimeter guns, but I doubt they will do that kind of idea. I'm just throwing it out there, because if you want to place it at tier 5, they gotta buff something on the ship, because it's just not working out with this particular hull. But aside from that, I hope you guys enjoy this video. That's my input. That's my take on the Unitis. I do like the ship. I like the ship. Again, it's playing like a tier 8 ship at the high tiers before they fix the matchmaking to rebalance it. Sometimes you will get into games where you're top tier and that's where the ship is fine and fun to play, but then you get into games where you're bottom tier and life is just crap with it, unless people don't focus you and you just farm free damage off of tier 7 ships. And that's where you get a lot of XP and credits. It's when you get the broadside on those tier 7 ships, because as you know it, if you're bottom tier and you do a lot of damage against a higher tier ship, you get a lot more weight on the XP modifier and the credit modifier. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on World of Warships.